All
Happy
right,
days.
coming up, Ollie. Just you as host.
I think we're good.
Had some
Oh,
good feedback, Ollie, from last week from the guys, which was good as well. They were pleased that you were human with your delivery, and I said, yeah. There's some funny bits on that on that presentation that I think some went even missed it. Like little comments at the top.
yeah, so I kind of forget I put them up there if I'm
Yeah.
honest.
No, it's all good. Perfect. All right, up to you, Ollie.
We're
I
in.
will mute myself.
Can you see that? I'll full screen it in a second. Yeah, I'm just gonna make sure I've got my chat up. So yeah, if you got any questions, I've got the chat box open, so fire away. Other than that, you obviously can come off mute if you like. I think we're good to go. Yeah, thanks. Obviously, yeah, it's 2 o'clock on a Sunday, so this will be quite quick fire, and yeah, it's actually very apt because I think people overcomplicate this area so much, and obviously the big bad world of supplements is all about marketing, really, and we get new things thrown at us every day on social media, and to be honest, it's a very limited list of what I personally recommend from like a health supplementation point of view. So one, it'll be a lot cheaper. Two, it'll save us time on this Sunday afternoon, so we don't have to go into loads of detail. And yeah, as I say, it's just that they know what they're doing when they're targeting everyone. But anyway, we'll get into it. So today we're going to look at health supplements. So we looked at performance ones. Can't remember when that was, last week at some point. Now we're going to look at maybe more like your daily ones, the ones away from the sport, the ones to keep us a little bit healthier or ticking over. So why isn't that working? There we go. Just to remind us of the nutrition pyramid and the saying you can't polish a turd. If you weren't here on the last one, that is a turd. But yeah, if your diet is rubbish, it doesn't matter what supplements you take, you will still have a rubbish diet. So we try to build it upwards, don't we? We look at what we're eating, what kind of foods, are we getting the right nutrients in, are we getting the timing right? That's another thing, like the total timing and type, the three T's of nutrition. And ultimately, supplements do that final thing where they top up maybe what we're missing out through the diet. But ideally, we yeah build it up from bottom upwards, and supplements are that cherry on top. Okay, so easy stuff. So the first one I'm gonna tell everyone to get is a vitamin D supplement. Okay, essential in the winter. So basically, what happens is during from October onwards, basically, and the less sun exposure we get, our vitamin D gradually drops. So it's not a sudden drop off. It takes a while. It's a fat soluble vitamin, and then midwinter we probably become quite deficient, and that can make us more susceptible to illnesses, particularly. It can impact sort of performance and sort of muscle contraction. It can also be linked with mood and sort of that seasonal depression as well. So there's a lot of factors there. It's also got strong links to bone health and bone development. So if anyone's really prioritizing having really healthy bones or a healing from a fracture or anything, then vitamin D is absolutely the first thing we'll throw at them. It helps get calcium into the bones. So what do we want? We want between 2,000 and 4,000 international units per day. The main thing again with supplements, and one thing that probably should have mentioned before is it should all really be specific and individual depending on your blood work. So not all of us have the sort of luxury to know what our blood biomarkers are saying, but if you can get a general blood test from the GP, or if you want to go obviously private and get more of the sort of ones you can either send off or get delivered home, send them off, or go into like a lab and get a phlebotomist to take your blood. That's the best way of knowing what we need and how much from a dosage point of view. So these will be sort of like general recommendations. That is the best way to do it. That's how to know what we're doing. And with blood tests, we try and take it longitudinally. So a one-off blood test is never actually that useful because that might actually be a high marker for you or a low marker for you. It's not until we maybe have two or three in a row where we can actually see how that trends for you over time based on your lifestyle and everything. So. But anyway, yeah, vitamin D3, that's what we want. We want it to be D3. I think most people are kind of aware of that now at the moment. You can get spray. Oh, good. There we go. Good. If you look in the chat, obviously, Kieran said that you do have access to blood tests. So maybe that could be another session, actually. That could be a really good one. We can go through the different levels, ranges, maybe the recommendations for that. Um, Yeah, we can get vitamin D3 in spray form where you spray it into the cheek if you can't take the pills, but the pills are quite small. I personally take 4,000 international units a day, which is the highest sort of recommendation without sort of getting prescribed. You don't have to get it prescribed, but I think it's like the World Health Organization recommend 4,000 IUs. There's the upper limit, but getting toxicity from vitamin D is very challenging, so you have to take a lot of it. Um, so yeah, I'd be recommending that. Timing's not too important. The only recommendation I'd have is probably having it alongside food or after food, just because it's a fat-soluble vitamin, so we absorb it better when we've got some fat present in that meal. And yeah, the effects, as I mentioned there, particularly the immune function one, obviously pick up all sorts of illness during the winter. If we can stay away from that, we're probably more likely to have better training, more consistency with the training, better adaptation because of it, etc. So it really impacts you over the winter. So get that in this winter if you can. Good. We touched upon this one as a performance, performance supplement last time, but actually from a health point of view, also really, really useful. So this is why it's in here twice almost. So some of this is kind of regurgitated from the last one. But just the effects there, rather than looking at last time we talked about how like strength development was a good one, sprint repetition was a really good one, and like recovery between bouts of exercise, really, really useful. It's also got some pretty good research on muscle retention. So as we age, something called sarcopenia is like a mu loss of muscle as we age. We want to minimize that as much as we can. Something like creatine can really help with that. Bone health and brain health there as well. So yeah, lo loads of benefits there, and something I'll be pushing pretty much everyone to be having. As I say, that recommendation of sort of one scoop per day, just mixing it into whatever's most comfortable for you, and what you can remember every day is probably the most important takeaway from that. Good. Omega 3. So this is one we haven't really spoken too much about at the moment. So we've got EPA and DHA. So they're kind of the two active compounds within omega 3 that we really want to sort of prioritize. So if we have got an omega 3 supplement, I would just take a look at what the breakdown is of the EPA and DHA, because you can get say like a high dose omega 3 supplement. It might say it's 1,000 milligrams, but the actual EPA and DHA content can be really low. We almost want it to be kind of as high as possible, so we should be looking at about 400, 500 milligrams of probably EPA, and then DHA tends to be a little bit lower, sort of around 200, 300 milligrams. So um, yeah, quite high on that. You'll never get it exactly up to the sort of that 1,000 milligram target, but we want to make sure it's got some active compound in there essentially. Um, how much we want? We probably want between 1 to 3 grams per day. So I personally take one gram. I take one fish oil per day, which is 1,000 milligrams. But you can go up to 3 grams per day, which I would probably recommend to some people who don't have much fish in the diet or are in like a rehab phase. So it's got really strong anti-inflammatory benefits, which is obviously really useful when we're recovering from an injury. Timing doesn't really matter. You might want to spread it out because you get those fishy burps. Maybe we did cover this the other day, and that's all coming back to me. But um, reason why we want it, reduced inflammation. So yeah, as I say, when we're injured, that's really important. But general chronic inflammation is never a great thing from like a metabolic health point of view. Linked with muscle pathways and the brain health, cognitive health link there as well as joint health. So obviously links with that inflammation, where typically if we've got reduced inflammatory response around the joints, then that's helpful as well. You can take them just before bed if we do suffer from the fishy burps. Take them with food can reduce the fishy burps a little bit as well, but it's more about that quality of the EPA and DHA that I think is really important. Good. Probiotics. So this is like I'd say hit and miss, like a medium level sort of evidence towards it. So it's definitely not one where I'd say definitely don't take one, but it's not maybe like the first ones that I'd suggest to people to definitely take. There's kind of few instances where this could be useful for those who particularly have challenges with their maybe gut health or their illness frequency. So if you're constantly getting ill, we might look for a probiotic to help maybe reduce that. Basically, it's yeah, measured in like the billions of bacteria that it provides into your gut, which can be a little bit confusing. It's often like 20 billion, so they might say. So that Pro 20 that says there on the health span is because it's got 20 billion live bacteria in there. And there's different strands, and why it's so complicated is that some strands have research in it, some strands don't have research in it. So I think the best takeaway would be if you do take a probiotic, make sure it probably states one of these two strands on there, so bifidobacterium and lactobacillus. If it doesn't, or it just says like probiotic blend on the ingredients, then it's probably pretty naff. We want it to be specifically those ones. Okay. Um, Timing, it doesn't really matter. I've got Simprove on there as well. I've had some sort of clients take that before. It's a little bit more expensive, but I don't know necessarily how strong the research is in it, but the idea is, well, their argument is basically when we consume the probiotic, we end up just killing it due to our stomach acid. So say you take the pill from the Healthspan brand there, we don't actually absorb or get the gut doesn't get access to the probiotics because of the stomach acid. So the Simprove have they almost like create it in a solution, which means it doesn't get damaged by sort of the stomach acid and will actually reach your gut better than other probiotic products. Again, a lot of it's probably marketing. I'm not 100% sure on the research on it at the moment. There's probably not much out there, but something to consider if you feel like probiotics aren't having an effect. But as I say, it comes at a bit of a price. Why do we want to take it? I'd say that immune response, that immune health is probably the biggest reason why. And again, around that winter period, is if we can just stay away from those illnesses and stay consistent, that will really help. May support gut health, and there are a few links to do with sort of performance as well. So it definitely wouldn't do any harm. It's just a case of I don't like just telling people to take loads of supplements because it ends up costing loads. So in certain contexts, I think this could be really appropriate. Good. Or the other thing about probiotics is again, like if you know you're going into a bout of I don't know, either really high intensity work or a period where you think you're going to be like immunocompromised. So when I work with athletes, if we ever travel, like long haul travel, or yeah, we're going into a different country and the training intensity ramps up, we will start supplementing for like a month out so that when they get that exposure to yeah, the airplane cabin and all the germs and bacteria that come with it, they've potentially got a slightly better immune response to that than what they had before. So it can be useful for trying to highlight certain key times in your year that you might want to take it. Um, Vegetarians or vegans, not sure. Obviously, if anyone is vegetarian or vegan, obviously very much more likely to be deficient in sort of iron, B12, and iodine. So again, this is going to vary completely depending on yeah the deficiency and whether you're deficient in one or the other, etc. So I'm not going to go into dosages here exactly, but I'd be recommending some of these. But yeah, it depends on the deficiency. The key things to do with iron are it absorbs a lot better with a vitamin C source. So if we are taking iron, let's try and take it with a meal or make sure it's got vitamin C within the supplement. Um, or take it like have it with some orange juice or something like that. That's a really big one. Exercise dampens the absorption rate as well. So trying to avoid having it around exercise. Also try to avoid having it around calcium and tea as well. So there's something called tannins which are in tea, which can really harm the absorption rate as well. We're not very efficient at absorbing iron. This is the problem. This is why we get quite deficient in it because you've got heme sources and non-heme sources. Heme is basically from meat, non-heme is from like plants. The non-heme absorption rate is I think like 5% or something, whereas the meat one might be up to like 20-25%. So we really struggle to absorb what we're having. So even if you are a vegetarian that's completely on it and they're getting loads of plant-based iron sources in, maybe like your beans and your spinach, etc. We need so much of it just to absorb a relative amount of it that we probably still end up deficient. Um, Again, timing is going to be relative to what we're taking and who is deficient and whether they are vegetarian, vegan, etc. So I'm just putting one per day on there. But yeah, a lot to do with energy production, energy, mood, oxygen delivery, things like that. So can hurt both performance and health if we don't have that right. If we are vitamin B12 maybe deficient, don't look too far past Marmite as well. Got tons of B12 in there because of the yeast extract. So if we don't want to take a supplement, that's a good solution as well. Again, this is one of those ones where I wouldn't necessarily throw this at everyone. I don't think everyone needs to be having this. This is, again, in some cases, so a daily multivitamin. And you tend to get what you pay for when it comes to multivitamins because the sort of the quality of the ingredients and the compounds that are used within that are the most important. So, for example, if you go into Tesco or Aldi and get the own brand multivitamin, they're probably not going to be doing a lot. They'll be using really cheap, say, like zinc or magnesium compounds there, which don't actually absorb particularly well. So it's worth, yeah, doing a bit of research, and maybe this is something I can provide again, highlighting a few of the key brands, of which will actually potentially provide a bit of a benefit. The only time I think multivitamin are really kind of useful is one, if we're like a really fussy eater and we really don't have much fruit and veg in our diet, and be critical with yourself and recognize if that is you, then it's fine to have a multivitamin. Two, again, if we're going through like a bout of very high intensity work, or we're on the move, or like a really stressful period, we might do that. But essentially, they're only providing a safety blanket in that they tend to give you like 100% of your daily recommended amount of a certain nutrient, which just means that you'll avoid the deficiency. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll be optimal. We can pretty much get that through a good diet pretty comfortably if we've got good meals in there. So again, save your money if we don't think we really need it. All we're trying to do there is minimize your risk of deficiency. Good. I haven't updated the one at the top there, but it's basically immunity supplements. So these we would use with athletes again for traveling, or if they do come down with a cold, to try and minimize the symptoms and the severity of the symptoms. So it doesn't necessarily stop you from getting it, but it helps you manage it when we do get ill. So we've got something there called zinc defense lozenges. So again, if we know that we're really susceptible to illness during the winter, what I'd probably say is have a pack of these just in the cupboard. And what you do, you take them at the onset of any symptoms. So if you start getting a scratchy throat, or you start getting a pounding headache, like more like cold flu-like symptoms, you suck on these. It sort of interacts on the back of your throat, and again, it can help to reduce that severity and the duration of the symptoms. So if it means you've got 2 days less without those symptoms, that's a real positive thing. And again, obviously, if we reduce that severity and we can actually handle things a little bit better, then that's great. Um, so handy to have on board, that you have sort of like one of those every 3, 4 hours. The lozenges, you sort of suck on those. And then the vitamin C, so a really high dose vitamin C, so that would be a 500 milligram little tablet. You probably take two of those a day when we have those symptoms of being ill. So that's the only time to take them, is when we have those symptoms. And again, that can help to just support the immune system to help reduce those symptoms and everything. Okay. So vitamin C at 1,000 milligrams per day. Zinc equals, sort of 5, 6 lozenges per day. So you spread that out across the day. And as I say, reducing that severity of illness and reduces duration of illness. Okay, I've got a question up here. Let me have a look. Oh, okay, I'll come to that at the end, actually. There's a few in there. Um, Good. What do we got next? We've got sleep-based. So I feel like this is becoming quite a big thing at the moment. I would say sleep supplementation and just sleep in general is very individual. Okay, so I don't think there's one really, really powerful supplement in there that I'd be saying, yeah, definitely do it. Okay, so magnesium is probably the biggest one that we hear about. Um, it could improve things. I'd always look at your sleep hygiene first and the way you approach sleep, and more of a lifestyle point of view, before we start spending some expensive powder. Spending loads of money on expensive powders. Um, but it might work, and if it is a placebo effect, then but we're still getting better sleep because of it, then that's not a bad thing. But all the ones I'd look out for are things called magnesium glycinate. So that's the particular type of magnesium that does have the evidence behind it. Montmorency cherry, which we kind of spoke about last time, it helps reduce muscle soreness and may induce or reduce the onset of sleep. And then L-theanine as well, which is an amino acid, which might help reduce the onset of sleep latency. Okay. The reason I've got kiwi on there is there's actually some relatively good research, or at least 2 or 3 studies, which have shown sort of 2 kiwis an hour before bed can help support or improve the quality of sleep as well. And I believe that's because it's a bit of a precursor, or it helps to support I think it's the production of tryptophan, or it might be one of those sort of amino acids that's linked with the blood-brain barrier and going in and supporting that sleep as well. So if you like your kiwis, that's not a bad option. Um, but when I talk about reducing the onset of sleep, what we're talking about there is basically how long it takes us to fall asleep. So if we really struggle, we've got a busy brain, it takes us 30 minutes to drift off. If we can reduce that, obviously that helps, particularly when we've probably got limited time in bed, as well as improving the actual sleep quality as well. But they can be expensive. That one on there, which is the night powder, that costs £80 for that bag, which is 1 month's worth. So it's pretty outrageous, actually. Good. Um, to be honest, that kind of sums up most of mine. There's a couple of questions up here. There are obviously there are loads more contextual ones which might have benefits in there, but if I'm honest, these are the only ones which actually have strong evidence in there. I'd obviously still throw like whey protein in there from like a muscle growth point of view and just maximizing our muscle retention and everything. There might be some others in there, but they'd be the main ones. On the screen, say don't ruin your gains with a Z. Basically, some people I come across this quite often is take a vitamin C chronically, and they think it's helping them and supporting their immune system. But basically, we only ever need vitamin C when we have those symptoms of illness. So, because it's a very powerful antioxidant, vitamin C, basically it can interrupt your muscle building pathway a little bit. So you're almost giving the body too much of a good thing. So it doesn't know how to adapt on its own and develop its own pathways and that adaptation process to develop more muscle, because the vitamin C is almost yeah, supporting us too much, if that makes any sense. But basically, you don't need to take a daily vitamin C, so we don't need a daily Berocca or anything. And it can actually harm almost like the work that you're doing in the gym a little bit, or that long-term muscular development. So yeah, be aware of that. That's about it really. Just a note to say that like a really good website is a place called examine.com. They've got like really good breakdown of sort of different studies. They go into detail with each individual nutrient. Will kind of show the level of the evidence as well, whether it's like weak, moderate, strong. So it's always a nice touch. For those who've missed it or haven't seen it yet, obviously this is my the discount codes. But I'm sure most of you have probably already been familiar with that. So yeah, as I say, I wanted to keep it short. I honestly think most people don't need all of those. Okay, I think the essential ones are vitamin D. I'll probably put omega-3 in there. Um, and then, as I say, there might be the sort of the probiotics and stuff. But other than that, there's not many more that I'd really be recommending to people. But if anyone's got any questions, I'm going to fire through the ones that are in the chat at the moment. Um, how can I improve my nutrient absorption through diet, and are there specific foods I should focus on? That is a huge question. Uh, you can't measure your nutrient absorption, so I wouldn't even know necessarily where to start. Obviously, I'd say whole foods you'll probably absorb a lot better. The food matrix, I think I kind of mentioned this before, is quite interesting. So basically, they to put this into an example, they measured the impact of egg whites and whole eggs on like muscle protein synthesis and muscle growth. They matched the say 20 grams of egg whites and 20 grams of whole eggs, and they found that the muscle protein synthesis response was greater in the whole eggs compared to the egg whites. So there's also been a similar study in like milk with like whole milk versus semi-skimmed or skim milk, and whole milk generally gave a better muscular response. Like it's quite small. I don't think it needs suddenly everyone needs to start drinking whole milk, but I think the point that I'll always take from this is the food works really well in its like original format, and like in the food matrix. So when we've got the fat in there, we've got the protein in there, we've got the other nutrients that support it. We tend to absorb that really well, rather than taking sort of the individual elements of certain food, whether that's in supplement form or whether that is in food form. It doesn't tend to probably work as well. It hasn't got as much bioavailability. I guess from a protein point of view, yeah, we'd be looking at the protein quality content. So things like whey, eggs have got like really loads of protein availability is what we call it, whereas other foods, which typically like your plant-based ones, have like poor amino acid availability, so we don't absorb them as well. So I don't really have a specific answer to that one because one, it's impossible to know. I'd say obviously if you've got good gut health, and again that's a big topic, but stress management's a good one with that one. Sleep's a big one with that one. Hydration's a big one with managing your gut health. If you've got great good gut health, hopefully we would absorb things pretty well. And the quality of the diet is obviously quite important as well. I'd probably say they're my two takeaways from that. Um, One second, I'm just going to work my way through these. Are there any specific supplements that can help my energy levels and reduce fatigue? I'd look at your blood test and I'd look at your B12 and your iron. They'd be the ones that are primarily focused on your energy levels. Energy and fatigue is obviously a wider piece, again, lifestyle wise, looking at sleep, stress management, etc. But maybe have a look at that. How often should I have my nutrient levels checked and what tests do you recommend? Great question. I mean, if you could do it monthly, that'd be amazing, but I don't expect people to be able to do that. I think biannually, so twice a year would be really nice. And then you can just, it gives you a bit more time to react to things if things have changed. So we're not waiting a whole year to see that, I don't know, our testosterone has started to reduce, for example, our free testosterone has dropped down. So we can actually act on that a bit earlier if it is 6 months rather than 12 months. Um, what test do you recommend? All sorts, really. I'd probably look at, yeah, some like general vitamin D, a big one. Iron, a full iron profile. So look at your ferritin, like transferrin saturation, and your blood hemoglobin as well. You probably look at some more like yeah, sex hormone markers. So yeah, like your testosterone, free testosterone. You might look at things like LSH, so luteal stimulating hormone. Um, to be honest, most places will do like a good general check, and there's like Medichecks, there's Fourth Edge, there's another one that's quite good. Can't remember what it's called. They will, yeah, generally do like an overview program, which will probably provide, I don't know, 200 markers, which is loads. They will cover absolutely everything. I don't think there's anything in there specifically that you want to get extra. From that, you'd be able to determine, yeah, maybe if you need extra supplementation or, again, I'd always argue, I think lifestyle has a much bigger impact than any supplementation, to be honest. But yeah, that'd be the main ones, to be honest. So I'm just trying to think what we'd do with the athletes would be. Yeah, so it's like iron profile, vitamin D. There'll be quite a lot more clinical ones, which the doctor would go through. So it'd be like white blood cells, red blood cells, sort of like liver and kidney markers. Um, for me, you might look at something called omega-3 6 ratio, which looks at, I guess, like pro-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory benefits. You might look at something called folate, which is tends to be a bit good marker of like general diet quality and whether we've got enough greens in the diet and stuff like that. Um, they'll be the main ones, actually, I think, to be honest. What supplements can help alleviate common menopausal symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, and mood swings? Not necessarily something I've done loads of research into. I think there is a little bit of research to show that maybe creatine can be linked with sort of the potentially the post-menopausal periods. I don't know whether that'll have any impact during. Um, I'd be guessing at that. I'd always say like the vitamin D, the omega-3. If we take that, obviously vitamin D during the winter, see if that helps. I think it's got other benefits away from that, but it might also support that. So yeah, not too sure about that, I'm afraid. Maybe have a look on Examine and see what they say because honestly, it's a pretty good website. How does collagen supplementation benefit tendon health and what type of collagen is most effective? Tell you what, if I scroll back whoop, 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 on here, oh, too far. I've got a slide here on collagen. So this is what we want. Um, Collagen supplementation benefit tendon health. So how does it basically supports the synthesis of tendons and like the stiffness of tendons and ligaments, and may improve that tissue remodeling. So really useful during rehabilitation phase. We want I think it's type 1 and type 3 collagen. Bovine collagen tends to tick all that off. So, and we want to make sure we're having it before we are, yeah, stressing or stimulating the targeted area. So if we've got dodgy knees, that we want to take an hour before we say we go for a run or we do some squats or something in the gym. So we're stressing that area. So because it's very hard to get blood flow to your connective tissue, we want to stress that area, and that helps to improve the blood flow to it. The collagen will already be digested in your blood flow by that point, so we can actually get some of the collagen into that area. Um,
Yeah, Ollie, this was a question actually from one of our guys who was elite level, and she picked up since being menopausal a number of proximal hamstring tendon issues, and physio was telling her, just yeah, you need to take collagen, but there was no real sort of, obviously from a physio saying that, there wasn't unfortunately sort of much backing up of information of okay, cool, but when, which type, etc., etc. So that's really cool. Thank you.
no problem. Um, Good. Then magnesium supplementation, 3 in 1. So I'm guessing that's got glycinate and oh, what's the other one called? Citrate. I reckon, in there. I don't know what the third one would be, but um, again, I'm not necessarily like, oh, everyone has to take a magnesium supplement. One, I'd say, why are you trying to take it, or what benefit are you trying to achieve from it? Is there another way we can achieve that through something that has stronger evidence rather than just throwing a magnesium at it? The glycinate and the citrate have like the best bioavailability, so the best absorption, so they're probably the ones that would support it. But again, it can get expensive. And does it work? Maybe. You don't really know. It was not one which has got really strong evidence behind it, such as the omega-3 and the vitamin D. It's a one where if someone maybe is struggling with sleep or yeah, probably be the only way at the time I'd really give it, to be honest, because again, you should be able to get plenty of magnesium from your diet and through nuts and things like that. So by all means, take it, see if it helps. But as I say, I wouldn't be spending loads of money on it, if in my opinion. But yeah, as I say, it's a big bad world. I'm not the tough thing about supplements. I'll be completely honest. Is like I don't know everything and anything about supplementation. Like it's a big bad world, and people will obviously create new compounds and throw things out, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's been researched. So this is probably why this is quite simple, is because there's actually not loads of research in that, and everyone's got completely different absorption rates individually. So everyone might react to supplements completely differently, and that's the challenge and the beauty of nutrition. But yeah, they're the ones that I'd recommend. Don't be afraid of trying things. You are your own experiment at the end of the day. So if you do try things and you find you've improved, then hello, that's great, isn't it? Like, but I just wouldn't be spending loads and loads of money on, I guess, the best marketed and branded supplements that sell you the world, because ultimately I think there's a lot of other ways of getting there beforehand. Um, but yeah, any other questions? Super muscles. Okay, I'll go glycinate for that then. Probably it's probably the best availability and it's probably got the best research in it for sleep. Um, but again, I'd say there's lots of things I'd be looking at necessarily before myself prescribing it. But if you like it and you think that has an effect, then carry on. It's not going to be doing any harm. Great.
Ollie,
Uh,
Ollie, I think for me, just generally across the board, everyone, as you said there, look, you got to test this a little bit on yourself. If you if you've done or you haven't done the blood tests or anything like that, that where you get obviously a snapshot in time of this is what we're low in, for example, then you got to go through that period of testing the supplementation, but always coming back to the fact for me, it doesn't undo a crappy diet or a crappy fueling overall. So it's that, we get asked a lot about should I take magnesium for this and that and for sleep? Sure, but are you actually going to bed a decent time? Are you getting those hours in? Is your sleep hygiene where it needs to be? So I think that's a really good point for everyone, including myself, to remember. It's so easy to get caught up in the glitz and glam of the marketing of supplementation.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, as I say, they know what they're doing. It's an easier solution as well. Funnily enough, it's like taking a pill, isn't it? And the placebo effect is kind of a real effect. So you'll probably find that if you're taking like a nighttime pill or a nighttime shot, you're probably actually focusing more on your sleep because of it. So you might actually go to bed earlier. You might have a cooler bedroom or like relax a bit more around it because you've bought into the process. So is it actually having an effect? Maybe, maybe not. But are you improving your sleep because of it? Potentially. So. Yeah, human psychology is quite interesting.
All right.
Thanks for your time on a Sunday afternoon.
Cool, mate. Thank you very much. All right. Cheers, Ollie.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, enjoy the rest of your day.
See you again soon, bye.
Bye, 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 bye.